Darryl Strawberry? You know I'm going to ask that, right?
I knew he was going to ask that. Man, it was actually a very, very emotional, moment for me. First of all, his message was outstanding and just right on time. And it had nothing to do with the player that he is or the player that he was. It's all about the man that he is today. And just he was my childhood hero growing up in the city of El Cajon, outside of San Diego, California. All you knew about was Darryl Strawberry. Everybody wanted to be Darryl Strawberry, and to have a chance to meet him, but to meet him in a different way than I ever thought I would. To know what he's been through and to hear the story and the message that he has, and from my son's first travel ball number to be number 18, man, it was pretty cool. But just really appreciate him, his transparency. I appreciate what the Lord has done in his life in transforming him and just giving him the platform to be able to touch so many people. So it was really cool.
Did you talk about Game 6 with him?
I didn't talk about Game 6. So Game 6 was a little bit before my time, But I just remember, growing up, and that's all we talked about is because, you played pickup baseball in California. We didn't play pickup basketball. We went to the ball field. We played baseball. And after you picked teams, everybody said who they were, And I just remember, hey, I didn't get number 16. I had Doc's number, But I always said I was Darryl Strawberry.
Tony, Dabo was talking about Will Shipley, that he's just not a normal freshman, in terms of a win every spring. He's just that competitive. What types of things do you see from him that just show you he's not a normal freshman?
Is even though he may not know exactly what he's doing, he's still going to go to the front of the line. So he has a confidence, about himself, a concept confidence in his ability, but it's not an arrogance. And that confidence is that he will put in the work, and he has the ability to learn. And he's going to give everything that he has, every single play, and not just here, but in everything that he does. And he's just an exceptional young man. You go look at his academic track record in high school, 4.0 student. Been a 4.0 student since he got here. He's fully bought into the ball journey as a freshman, kind of understanding that concept. Most freshmen, they don't quite understand what that concept's all about until later in their career when they have chances to be exposed to it. But he's dived in head first, and he wants to be a leader. He wants to be great, and so that resonates in everything that he does.
Coach, you have a tremendous group of tight ends. Even got Luke Price back with his blocking ability. Just your thoughts about that group and Jake Briningstool, how far he's come since the spring.
It's a fun group. I enjoy being around those guys. They're very, very low-key, low maintenance. They're all about work. They're all about each other. So it's been fun. It's good to have Luke back. Luke brings a different temperament, to the room, which is good. And so to see him back after what he went through has been fun. And then Jake showed up 20 pounds heavier than when he got here at the big weigh-in, and we all know athletically, what he can do. But where he's making progress is, conceptualizing the big picture of the offense to be able to maneuver, make the calls that we need to make, and then his physicality is continuing to increase with every day that his confidence increases.
Tony, there have been some times in the past with the quarterback run game. I guess Deshaun comes to mind when you guys sort of kept that in the back pocket, just maybe when you needed it. Do you see with DJ as a foundational part of this offense, just with what he brings, with his big frame and maybe some of the benefits that gives you? Maybe things like that.
Right.
Maybe it's more of a sort of more to sustain you, I guess.
Good question. And it's so fun to have Taj back because he reminds me a lot of Taj. You think about Taj, and Taj had the huge arm. There's been Deshaun, there's been Trevor, but it started with Taj and the big arm, and then his running style. I think there's similarities with their running style, and it was the same back then. He was that guy that neutralized the defense. Whenever you try to get a number, and obviously you want to hand the ball to the backs and tell those guys to carry the load. But whenever you need to neutralize the defense or balance it out to create the numbers, you got to have that quarterback run game. And then there's certain components of our RPO and our run game that the quarterback has to make us right, pulling the ball. And we've been fortunate to have guys that could go the distance, and I think DJ is potentially one of those guys in the long run. But we'll just got to see what he's comfortable with, where he's at. And then as this, offense creates their identity, see how the quarterback run fits into that identity.
You haven't seen them hit yet, but the offensive line, it looks a little different. Some of those bigger bodies now on the line. Are you anxious to see them get out there and go head-to-head with that defensive line and see what they can do?
Oh, no question. You come out here and obviously, first of all, the defensive line is unbelievable. That's a great-looking group, and it's going to make us better, no doubt. But it's been fun to watch Pennington, move around. You got Tate, big bodies. Tucker, is a year older. He's moving better. Walker. So it is good to have those big guys, and just got to see where they're at. They're still swimming. You got 4 days of install in, and you added the shoulder pads today, so we got to pop a little bit. So I'm anxious to get in there and watch the inside run and some of the competitive stuff because it wasn't fully live. But it's good to see those guys can move. They're athletic, but there's still a lot to learn, and they're getting challenged too. And one of the frustrating things for us, but it's a blessing, is how we get challenged every single day in practice, physically from a personnel standpoint on that defensive line, and then schematically with what Brent does. And so it's been fun, but they're swimming a little bit because there's so much that's being thrown at them. So I'm anxious to get to Saturday when we get off the field and we just let them play.
We've seen Bucket center. We've seen Bucket center some. Marcus Tate. You think Marcus is a guy that could earn some playing time? And is the plan really? We're just going to put the best 5 out there.
That's the plan, is to find the best 5. Whoever it is, and then creating some more depth at center and giving us some flexibility on the inside to maneuver guys around, to be able to create a little bit more girth inside, which we may not have had last year. And, what we saw in the spring, we were very encouraged. What we've seen so far out of Marcus Tate, and so for us, the more positions he can play, right, the more versatility it gives us, because you got a McFadden, and you got Parks, and you got Bockhorst, and you got Putnam, and then you got the guy that we're stressing and straining, that we want to kind of pull through the knot hole is Hunter Rayburn. Because if you look at Hunter Rayburn, 320 pounds, arguably one of the best athletes on the offensive line. It's just now it's his time to take that next step, and we get him through the knot hole. Taking ownership every single day, because he's a young guy. He's sitting behind Cage Stewart. He's a young guy. It's a little bit different when you're a backup, but now when you got to be a starter, there's a little bit different sense of urgency.
Is there a sense of urgency when it comes to making sure your backup quarterback is prepared, being that you got to get those guys ready in case something happens?
It's always a sense of urgency. You're always one play away, with your backup, and obviously people are going to look, and compare it to last year when you had Trevor, when you had DJ. But it was still that sense of urgency. We had to have DJ ready for the Boston College game, not knowing that Trevor was going to go down. You had to have him ready for Notre Dame. So you always got to have a sense of urgency with your backup quarterback, because you're one play away. But for us, the biggest thing is just evaluating Taisun where he's at. Been encouraged with his progress, and then getting them young guys, to a point to where they can go in and operate and function and manage the whole system.
Have you seen Hunter take another step though, in case he's got to be the number 2 guy that he can go in there and win?
I have. Mentally he's been really sharp. So far. Again, it's day 3 install or day 4 install, and a lot of that is carryover from the spring. We're going to start adding more as we get into day 6, 7, and 8. I want to see how he handles that. But so far, I've been encouraged with where he is mentally.
How close is Phommachabh? He looked really great when we saw him the first couple of days, and it was kind of amazing.
We're excited, with the progress. We anticipate that we'll get him back at some point this season. Feel like he may be ahead of schedule, but it's still early to tell. But so far, man, he's done everything that he needed to do. He looks good, but obviously you got to let the medical folks make that evaluation.
Just more healing is what he needs.
It's anytime you're dealing with injury, there's more than just the healing. There's the strengthening of muscles and ligaments and all that kind of stuff around there. I don't have the background in that, but I know there's more to just healing, and then there's the mental piece of it. Where I've been encouraged is just mentally, where he is and how he's trying to push himself.
What are your thoughts on Will so far?
Will Taylor? Mm-hmm. Man, he's lightning in a bottle. He's everything that Coach Sweeney, has advertised him to be. Man, he's got a confidence and a swagger about himself. Man, he'll let that thing rip. He can throw it from every arm angle. He's not afraid to pull it down and run. So you can tell that he's just got that competitive, fire to him. And he's actually picked it up, pretty good so far, just getting here this summer. So I've been encouraged with what I've seen out of Will.
Is he confident in his arm? Is it because he's a ball player? Does he think that's part of what
I think he's confident. I think he's confident in his arm. I think he's confident in his mind. I think he's confident in his legs. He doesn't look rattled at all out there. As sometimes freshmen do, especially as you get into the 4th, 5th day of installation, and you're just pounding it on him, and he's taking it in his stride, and he's out there, and you can tell he processes quick too, because you can correct him quickly, and he's like, okay, yeah, I got it. I understand what you're talking about.
Everybody overlooked Kobe Pace because of Travis Etienne. Yeah. Now the freshman's here grabbing everybody's attention, but what have you seen out of Kobe?
I'd say just don't sleep on 20. Don't sleep on Kobe, and we saw it last year, but Travis was here, and I think that Kobe's going to do everything you ask him to do. He's much quicker and faster than what people give him credit for his size. He's very natural. You know, as a running back, man, he sees it. His feet, you know, his eye-feet coordination, you know, is really, really good. So I'm excited. He catches the ball well. He's tough, physical, strong. So I'm anxious to see how this battle actually pans out once we get to the season.
Tony, who's your best candidate on the sort of horizontal stuff at the receiver position, sort of that Amari type?
Right. So Jay Ross is a guy that we've seen in the past do all of that. EJ's a guy that's got that short area quickness. You know, Frank, you know, is showing a different confidence about himself to be able to do, you know, some of those things. So we got some guys, you know, that we feel good. I think the backs too can also pick up some of that slack out of the backfield. So again, it may not look exactly the way it looked, you know, last year, but still, that's part of our offense. We're going to attack. We're going to attack it horizontally in different ways, and as we continue to progress through the installation and create the identity, you know, of this group, then we'll figure out who the best candidate are. But so far, we feel like and anticipate Ross will be that guy. EJ's been showing that thus far, and Frank has actually, you know, been a pleasant surprise in that aspect.
Could Shipley kind of be a guy that also was in that kind of capacity?
Shipley, Linjay, Kobe. You know, all those guys, and even sometimes you can formation and get those tight ends. You know, a lot of people like to flash, but a lot of times it's if you get them 4 yards, you know, you move the chains. And so it could be a combination of anybody. But Shipley is a guy that has caught everybody's attention because of the way that he works, the way that he performs, and just the person that he is. So he's garnering everybody's trust thus far. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned Taj, obviously now on the coaching side. What's that like to see him and CJ kind of, you know, go from players to now coaching?
It's just the fulfillment of what the vision of this program is. You know, from day one, Coach Sweeney's been about graduating our players, equipping them with tools for life, making sure they have a great experience and winning a championship. And equipping them with tools for life means that they're prepared for what's next. And obviously these guys were great, tremendous players when they were here, but also they're great men. And now they're here back in the program, having an opportunity to give the perspective to the players, you know, that some of us as coaches that are, you know, a little bit older may not be able to give to them. And so it's just awesome to see those guys back. And, you know, it's a reminder to me to continue to strive every single day because I was here with Taj. You know, I didn't play or coach with CJ, but I was here with Taj and Hot Rod McDowell and Artavis Scott. You know, has been heavily involved in his recruiting process. So it's so cool to see these guys back, and that's really what the program is all about. Is about building men. And now these guys are men. They're 30, 34 years old. They have families. You know, they're very accomplished in other arenas, and now they're back in a position to give back to the program. So it's pretty cool.
Is Braden and Davis, where are their mentalities at coming into camp for those two guys?
Man, those boys are battling. I'm pushing them. You know, they can run. Either one of them can run out there first. So man, they're pushing each other, and then I'm asking them to take the lead to bring the rest of the group together, right? Because I'm a firm believer in my position room that it's about the position. Right? It's not about the person, it's not about an individual, it's about the standard of the position. And the only way that we're going to be able to play to that standard is that everybody, right? Everybody elevates the level of play. And the only way we're going to do that is together, pushing each other. So their mindset is, man, come in, compete, be a physical presence, you know, in the run game. And then when we're in the pass game, you can't tell the difference between a tight end and a wideout. They look just like the other guys. So they're accepting the challenge. You know, there's a lot of nuances in the pass game, you know, that they're learning, and really challenging these guys to continue to be a physical presence to help these young, you know, offensive linemen, and set the tempo and bring leadership.
Was Briningstool back out there today, or was he still out?
No, he wasn't out there.
Okay. Did you mention Tristan Leigh earlier?
I didn't mention, you know, he slipped my mind.
Give your take on sort of his first.
Big body that can move. He's in a tough position because he's playing left tackle, and he's got to go against Miles Murphy and all those guys. But so far, you know, pleased with his ability to move. I think he's got some work to do on his body, you know, from a physical standpoint to get himself to where he needs to be. But you could tell that the future is very bright for him. But I think when you compare him to Bennington and Tate, just physically they're a little bit more developed. But what I really like about Tristan is every time I see him, he's got his iPad or he's got his phone and he's got playbook stuff up. So he's hungry, he's eager to learn. I just think physically he has a little bit more that he has to do in order to get ready to play than the other two.
I mean, in our time watching, we've seen Ajou Ajou make some jaw-dropping plays, but at the same time, we've seen Coach Sweeney and Coach Grisher get on him for lining up wrong, false starts. Is that still the kind of the battle with him?
No, I mean, Ajou, man, he's put in the work, and you can just tell that his confidence, is there. He's not perfect, and don't expect him to be, but what you're seeing is he has a desire now to give a perfect effort. He's learning how to do that, and that's where that challenging, from Coach Sweeney has really, really taken hold. And he's pushing Joe. And so what you're starting to see is you're starting to see us getting back to potentially being what we've been in the past with that 1-2 punch at the 9-man. He's a lot more consistent. He's a lot more fluid because he's not thinking. He's a lot more confident. So it's been fun to watch his evolution.
How about his body? I was just curious, how about his body?
Now, body looks great. I think he was around between 221 and 224. He's a freak. He's a freak of nature. And now it's just our job as coaches is to help, polish that diamond in the rough. We got to cut it. We got to polish it, just so when the light hits it, it shines bright.
Does he remind you of anybody, or is he his own person?
Man, he's his own person. Like, he's different. Like, if I had to say a person he reminded me of, like, his movements remind me of Nuke, DeAndre Hopkins, but he's bigger, might be a little bit faster. But he reminds me, but he's not there yet from the mental aspect where, Nuke, you threw it in his zip code, it was being caught, which I think Ajou has that potential, right? He has that potential, but he just has to develop that, that mindset. But physically, he's his own guy, but moves similar, in my opinion, to Nuke.
Is he at a point right now where, big play against Georgia, you feel comfortable putting him in the game? Or is that something that you want to see kind of keep developing?
He's trending in the right direction. He's definitely trending in the right direction. I want to see how he continues to battle through camp. Can he maintain, his approach day in and day out? And then that's where he's going to earn the total trust and the total confidence. But he's trending in the right direction.
What's been your impression of that freshman line group as a whole? Do you expect some of those guys to be able to help you this year?
We're pushing them. We're pushing them, and then you gotta throw Brian Tucker, kind of into that freshman group. We're pushing him. He looks, much improved. Pennington, as I talked about, Tate, as I talked about, physically, those guys are big guys, can move people. They can play inside and outside. Tristan is more of an outside guy right now. Has to really, really work on his body, but man, he's committed. I know and again, in fairness to him, he just played a high school football season too. So his body, is in a different place than the rest of the guys. He played a full season, didn't have an off season. Now he's coming out here and he's banging again. So that's the impression is, man, the future is very bright with those guys. Still a lot to learn, but we're pushing them and we're trying to get those guys to step up. And then the Paul Teos, the Hunter Rayburns, the Tuckers, the Mitchell Mays, all those guys got to take that next step. In the first couple of days, been encouraged, but we'll see as we continue to go through camp. Can they maintain and continue to make the progress we need?
Talk about the defensive line, what kind of challenge that is. I mean, what is it about those guys, and how different is it from last year?
Oh man, it's they're talented and they're very, very deep. And what I'm seeing though is I think the difference is, okay, you talk about Dexter, you talk about Clee, you talk about Christian, those guys had to work together to create that chemistry and cohesion, and it didn't just happen when they all got together. It was over time. So what I think you're seeing now is you're really starting to see, what Bates and what Ski are trying to instill in those guys of just that best mentality, everybody pushing each other. It doesn't matter who runs out there first, playing to a standard. Those guys are flying around. They look like they're in unbelievable shape. They're deep, they're confident, and they're having a lot of fun. So I think the biggest difference is they're a year older. Now they've had a chance to really be around it, and we're really starting to see that chemistry and cohesion come together.
Going back to Shipley just real quick, the kid that wore one pair of tennis shoes all through high school because his dad bought them for him. Does that kind of speak to his mentality? Is he still wearing them?
So check this out. I'm a sneaker guy, right? And he's almost convinced me to go get a pair of Air Monarchs. All right. Shout out to Shipley. And to be honest with you, and what I love about Shipley is he's confident in who he is. He don't. And we pick at him. We'll send him group texts talking about the dad shoe and all that kind of stuff. And he'll buy another pair. You know, that's the kind of guy he is. But that's what you appreciate about him. The reason he is where he is, who he is because he's confident in who he is and he's not ashamed of it. And he believes in what he stands on, and he stands on it every single day.
Does it feel like this offense's identity is going to be kind of an evolving thing, given that you lost not just Trevor, but Travis and several other figurehead type players?
Right. Every year is the challenge of creating, you know, that identity, and that's what I was telling these guys after practice, because man, we're challenged every single day. You know, with what we're seeing on defense, and you know, we got some youth up front. They got experience on the D line. Man, they're getting after us. You know, in certain situations. So that was my challenge to these guys. Hey, fellas, let's walk off this field with our head held high, because we know that this fire right here is what's going to refine us so that we can come out that steel that we want to be on the other side. But you know, it's still too early to tell. But what I was encouraged by you know, the energy and the excitement that they started practice with. Just need to take a young group and teach them how to finish practice, you know, that way. I thought we had a great start to practice, and then towards the end of practice, the defense had a little bit more energy than we did. But it was a great learning opportunity and teachable moment for our guys, because that shows that, hey, nobody wants to be immature, but we got to grow in that area. We got to be able to put 4 quarters together and not just a half.
Is there any refining that DJ needs to do in your mind right now over the next few weeks?
You know, for DJ is just being disciplined in the pocket. You know, not freelancing. You know, trusting his footwork, being sharp with his decision making. And so far, I've seen him, you know, going to work on those. And the biggest thing for DJ, you know, that we need is we need him to refine his leadership. His style is going to be different. It's going to be similar to Trevor early on. He's not a big rah-rah guy. He's not going to say a lot, but he commands a presence. And so we need him to, every time he steps in the huddle, command that presence, you know, and not shy away from that moment. Right, and because now it's your offense, right, and it's your time.
On the defensive side, are there any of the freshmen that have caught your eye that have made plays?
Barrett Carter, you know, Barrett Carter is a guy. Nate Wiggins was here; he's a freshman, but he was here in the spring.
Right.
You know, he's caught my attention. Trying to think of somebody else. Man, Barrett, you could tell he's a very instinctual player. Man, he's got great movement skills. He doesn't look like, you know, the stage is too big for him. You know, he just kind of, you know, he looks like one of the other guys out there. But a lot of times with freshmen, you can kind of tell, because things are moving so fast, they might have paralysis by analysis.
The depth at receiver, do you feel like with these freshmen coming in, they're going to be able to help you pretty early on, and do you feel good about the depth that's kind of been developed at that position?
We need all the depth that we can get. It's a long season, and when we're at our best, when we can play fast and we can roll those guys. You know, so Dakari, he's making strides every single day. I think Bo Collins, you know, the sky's the limit, you know, for him. And so far with what we've been able to see out of Troy, very encouraged with Troy. Just got to get him, you know, up to speed, because he wasn't here in spring.
What was your impression of Briningstool so far?
Briningstool, man, I think he's going to be a fantastic player. It's just going to take him, you know, putting in the work to truly understand his role within the offense, because it's a very big role at tight end. You make all the formation adjustments, you're part of all the run game calls, you got to know all the pass protection calls, you got to know all the routes, you know, you got to know all the run fits. So just being able to conceptualize all of that, the talent is there, the work ethic is there, the want to is there, the ability to learn is there. It's just going to take time and trusting the process and moving through the process.
Did he practice today? Was he back?
You know, so he wasn't. I'll let Coach.
The backup quarterback, is that still, I guess, after Taisun, the first game, that's all here at this point, or is that kind of still
We're working through that every single day. You know, Streeter's giving those guys reps, giving them an opportunity to compete. And so I'm encouraged with what I saw, but still, it's only 3 days in. We were shorts yesterday. Today's the first day of pads. It's not fair to me to make that assessment yet.
Do you see sort of a sense of urgency from MJ and Cody and guys like that?
I think there's a sense of urgency, and back in the spring, I felt like that was, you know, one of, if not, the most competitive, you know, position groups in the spring, and it's carried over to the fall. All those guys have a great sense of urgency. They know that, you know, anybody has the opportunity to run out there first, but they also understand that it's not just about running out there first. It's about being able to play to the standard once you get out there.
As the veteran guy in the group, have you seen MJ kind of take more of a leadership role this time?
You know, I have. I've seen just a kind of different pep in his step. I think he's embracing his opportunity. Still has some learning that has to take place in how to be an effective leader. but I think the want to is there. I've seen the effort, and it's our job as coaches, you know, that now that he's identified himself as a leader, now we got to go empower him by teaching him, you know, how to lead.
Take one more. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you about pass protection. You brought it up just a moment ago. I know that's a big part of what you guys want to see from your young running backs. What do you expect to see from Will Shipley in that arena?
You know, just like running the football, he's going to take pride in everything that he does. And so far, you know, he's grasped the concepts that we've asked him to grasp. He's shown that he'll put his face in the fan. Now it's just a function of, over the course of camp, trying to simulate all the looks that he's going to see, you know, throughout the course of the season.
I think that's Mother Nature playing him off. Thanks guys.
Thanks,
I appreciate it.